Let's take a little trip around the diamond, shall we? How about some Major League Baseball best bets with DraftKings contributors Steve Buchanan, Mr. Positive, Garion, Thorne, the underdog, Easy E, Erik Halterman of RotoWire. We got 4 games. 4 games starting at 1 o'clock Eastern time. I saw you there, Samir. I saw you on television. Please pay attention. All right, 4 games starting at 1 o'clock Eastern time. What's your favorite bet from the early action today, Steven?
Yeah, how about let's go with the Nationals. Go over 3.5 runs at -120. There's this guy taking the mound for the Mets. His name is Taijuan Walker. Not very good. Not very good at all. Here's something amazing. This is his 4th start of the season. His first time against a team that's not named the Phillies. That's pretty remarkable, right? So now he's going to be facing the Nationals, who just absolutely pulverized the Mets yesterday. That was quite the run fest that we had over there. But the Nationals averaging a respectable 4.2 runs over the last 5 games. They're not an offensive juggernaut, but that's what teams look like when they go and face Taijuan Walker, who not striking out anybody, putting men on base from walks, and he can't keep the ball in the park. So giving the Nationals over 3.5 runs. Wouldn't like this if it was at 4.5, but beauty of it all, it's at 3.5. So we're going to take the over on that.
Go ahead, Garion. Put up your bukes. Oh!
That is not this segment at all.
I know it's not,
we
but
are
it was
in a
a
similar
nice segue.
territory.
Yes.
I guess technically on opposite sides, but not really. I just also think the Mets are going to score a bunch of runs in this game. I think it's going to be a relatively high-scoring game in general. Yoanna Dawn is taking the mound for the Nationals, and there might not be a better pitcher to pick on in all of baseball in 2022. This guy has a 7, roughly, expected ERA so far this season. I think it's 6.86 to be precise. But he comes into this start leading all qualified pitchers in baseball in barrels per plate appearance and barrels per batted ball event. This guy gives up so much hard contact. And look, nowadays you need a lot of hard contact to actually give up a home run or two, but he makes sure to get it done. So I'm going to take the Mets first 5 over 2.5 runs. They scored 3 runs in the first inning yesterday. Didn't score again, but that's all they need to do again today.
All right, Erik, what's your favorite bet from the early action today? 4 games starting at 1 o'clock Eastern time.
Yeah, I'll go with the latest of the early games, which actually starts a couple hours later. I like the Twins at +115, home against the Astros. The 2 lineups have both been quite good this year. Twins with a 110 WRC+, Astros with a 108, so maybe slight edge to the Twins so far, although I would probably expect the Astros to close that gap by the end of the year. As long as Byron Buxton plays on back-to-back days after returning from that hip strain yesterday, I'd say I like this bet here. I think the Twins have a similar lineup. The pitchers, I think, look similar as well. Nothing against Luis Garcia. He's having a strong year. 3.45 ERA looks pretty well earned. Good underlying numbers across the board other than a slightly low ground ball rate. But Josh Winder on the other side is really starting this rookie season strong. He was the 92nd prospect in baseball per Fangraphs. He was 67th over on RotoWire per James Anderson's fantasy-specific prospect rankings. And he would have ranked higher if not for a shoulder issue that ended his previous season. We don't have to worry about that, I don't think, for just 1 game here. 161 ERA through his first 5 outings. Solid underlying numbers across the board. Walk rate under 5% with an above-average ground ball rate and an above-average strikeout rate. He's a well-rounded pitcher who's got 4 at least average pitchers and the potential for plus command. If this wasn't at home, maybe I'd say that the Twins should be +115, but I think with that little home field advantage bump, I think this should be closer to 50-50.
Steve, I look at your face and it screams player prop. So what's one that you're leaning towards in the later games?
That's so weird. That's the second time someone has said that to me today.
Yeah,
Nick Castellanos going over 1.5 bases at +105. Nice little plus money there. But he's going against the lefty, Tyler Anderson. And if we know anything about Nick Castellanos, is that he hits lefties extremely well. Numbers so far this season back that up very well. 488 WOBA, 259 isolated power, and a 214 WRC+. Now, you might go and look at Tyler Anderson's numbers and go, oh, pretty good so far. Well, yeah, that's what happens when you have this little cupcake schedule that he's had so far this season. 3 of the 5 starts that he's made has been against the Cincinnati Reds, before they got red hot, by the way, no pun intended, the Detroit Tigers, going nowhere, and the Chicago Cubs, going nowhere. Now he actually has a really tough matchup tonight against the Phillies. So give me Castellanos over 1.5 bases, +105. Even if he doesn't get it against Anderson, his numbers against righties has also been absurd this season. He's just hitting the cover off the ball. So give me over 1.5 bases.
Steve, are the Reds good at baseball now? I think they have like 7 wins, but 4 of them come in the last 6 games.
Over the past week, the Reds lead Major League Baseball in runs scored by 10. So
Wow.
just put that into your pocket and take that information somewhere.
Also, death, taxes, and Kristen Yelich hitting for the cycle against the Reds. That's just all
No doubt.
That's all that guy does. Oh my God, Samir. You
Samir,
have to pay
get out of the
attention,
shot.
dude. You have to pay. Don't yell at me, Samir. Don't yell at
How
me.
stupid is Samir? I mean, what's this, his first day? Get out of the shot.
I'm actually really bummed because he shaved his mustache off today. So,
Well, he's off balance, clearly, because
Yeah.
he keeps going in the shot.
what's a player prop you're leaning towards tonight, Erik?
Yeah, we don't have too many of the strikeout props in yet, but one of the ones that is in I do like, and that's Zach Wheeler to get over 5.5 strikeouts. He started this year quite slowly, but I think we can blame that on the shoulder soreness that delayed him in camp. His velocity was back up to 96.2 miles per hour in his last start, up over a full tick from his average over his first 4. It was really his first 3 starts that were a disaster, 8.53 ERA, but since then he's thrown 13.2 shutout innings, allowing just 7 hits. He's hit at least 6 strikeouts in 29 of his 37 starts since the start of last year. That's 78% of his starts. And the Dodgers are a good lineup, and they don't strike out all that often. But for a guy who hits this mark over 3/4 of the time, I think he still has a good enough shot here that I like him at minus 115 to strike out at least 6 batters.
Gary Bear, player prop sticks out to you.
Yeah, like Erik said, don't have a lot of these strikeout props. I'm going to go with the other guy in that game, Tyler Anderson's take over 4.5 strikeouts. Steve mentioned it has been a soft schedule for Anderson so far this season, but you look at his strikeout numbers in particular, or his in-depth contact numbers. He comes into this game with the 8th best chase rate of any pitchers thrown 20 innings so far this season. Also has a swinging strike rate of 13.4%. And the Phillies have the 3rd highest strikeout rate in baseball against left-handed pitching. And it's not like it's the guys populating the bottom of the lineup striking out either. They're big 5 bats. Harper, Real Muto, Schwarber, Hoskins, those guys have combined for a 31.5% strikeout rate against left-handed pitching so far this season. So I think Anderson can get there tonight.
All right, dudes. Run total, run line, or money line bet you like tonight, Erik?
I'm going to be weirdly a homer tonight and stick with my Phillies again. Normally, I think I'm a little bit biased against my own team and pretty pessimistic about things, which, the last decade or so has taught me to be. But I like them at plus 125 here at the Dodgers. I already talked about how much I like Zach Wheeler. I think it seems like he's past his early season struggles. Maybe there's something there with Tyler Anderson, but I lean more on the let's see a little bit more than just 5 outings here. He was really bland over the last few years. Last 2 years, 4.49 ERA with an 18.2% strikeout rate, just a 33.3% ground ball rate. All he's really shown is that he doesn't walk too many guys. I don't think that's going to be enough here. I'm really surprised, given the difference between these two pitchers, why the Phillies are all the way at plus 125. I think that's too friendly of an underdog there.
All right, Gary, what are you looking at?
I'm going to look at the total in the White Sox-Yankees game. I'm going to go under 8 runs here. The Yankees have actually played 60% of their games to the under so far this season, and that's due primarily to the strength of their pitching staff. Luis Gil has not been part of that. However, he pitched relatively effectively last season, had a 3.95 expected ERA. The White Sox have also struggled immensely with right-handed pitching so far this season. They have just a 273 WOBA. That is the 5th worst mark in baseball. So even if Gil can't make it deep into this game, the Yankees bullpen of 99-mile-per-hour flamethrowers shows up, and they're doing pretty well this season. They have the lowest ERA, and they've given up only 0.38 home runs per 9. And then on the other side, you have Dylan Cease, who arguably has been the best pitcher in baseball this season. His 1.77 expected ERA is the best qualified mark in baseball. So I think this total is a couple runs too high, considering the caliber of pitchers we'll probably have in this game.
Steven, run line, or money line bet? Run total, run line, or money line bet? That's a lot of words.
Yeah, just real quick, somebody said Dylan C. Cy Young back in March. I was just saying.
It's suck when he loses to Kevin Gausman, but runner-up is nice.
Reds and Pirates, over 8 runs. I already mentioned earlier that the Reds are like one of the best offenses in all of baseball all of a sudden. Lead the league in runs scored over the past week by 10, 54 runs. Is 10 runs better than the Angels and Giants over that span? How is that possible? Nobody knows. But here's one thing I do know, is that the Reds, in a time where the over is a dying breed, The Reds have hit the over in 70% of their games. They are 21-9-1 on the over on the game total this season. And for the most part, it hasn't been because they've been this offensive juggernaut. It's because they've been the team that's allowed the most runs to their opponents by a long stretch. 6.5 runs allowed per game for the Reds. And who are they facing? The team who's in second, the Pirates, allowing an average of 5.4 runs per game. They might hit the over on accident in this one just because of how these two teams play. 8 runs, too low. Give me the over.
All right, let's get you guys out of here with this. Garion, Dodgers, Yankees, both in action. They're the favorites to win the World Series right now. So plus 450, plus 650 here respectively. Like a month ago, or a month into the season rather, like how are you feeling about any of these team futures right now? Any at all?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go the opposite of Erik and attempt to reverse jinx my favorite team right now. The weirdest line to me in terms of the make the playoff odds is probably the Toronto Blue Jays. Right now they are still plus 500 to not miss the playoffs. And I'm not saying this is necessarily going to happen, but with the emergence of the Angels in the West, the Mariners, sleeping giant. I know they're a couple games under 500, Steve, but sleeping giant. The Yankees right now are running away with the American League East. The Twins are a lot better than people expected. Like, this isn't a layup anymore that 3 American League East teams are going to make the playoffs. And again, it's early. The Jays have played one of the hardest schedules in baseball to this point. There's a lot of reasons to think they're going to turn this around. However, just look at the comparable odds. A team like the White Sox, who is in an infinitely easier division, is only 2.5 games back of the division lead right now. They are plus 170 to miss the playoffs. Why are the Jays plus 500? Because people liked them in March? I just think this number's inflated right now, and as much as it pains me to say it, I think there's some good value betting it.
All right, Bukes, you got the Twins and Angels still plus money to win the division. I mean, the Angels off to a 21-11 start, lead the AL West, and there is talent now rising up to play alongside Trout, Ohtani, and Rendon.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that maybe the Angels are actually legit this season, but that's too bad. They're in the same division as the Mariners, so it's not going to happen. Garion kind of touched upon this a little bit. Erik's shaking his head, but Erik knows anything. He touched upon this a little bit here. The White Sox are still minus 120 to win the division, okay? While it's not all that enticing to take a big favorite to win the division, about a month ago, they were almost double that to win the division. And we have a couple teams here in this division that I think we can say are overperforming. The Guardians are one of those teams. The Twins have been okay, but I don't think they're going to be able to sustain this all season long. So for you to get the White Sox at minus 120 to win the division, a team who was over minus 200 when the season began to win this, you're getting a really nice discount here. That team is going to figure it out. Their advanced stats just show how much bad luck that they've been running into. Like their expected batting average and their actual batting average was miles apart. This team is going to start hitting. They have the pitching staff to do so. Take them at minus 120. They're going to win the division by the time the year's over.
Erik, which futures prices here jump out to you?
First, I got to mention to Steve how much I enjoyed the Phillies Mariners series earlier this week.
Yeah.
But as far as the actual question here, I'm going to take a look at one of the bets to win the title, take it all. And I like the Brewers at plus 1,200. I think the teams that are favorites, most of them seem fairly priced, but I don't think you're really getting a steal, especially because so much can happen in the playoffs. They are closer to a coin flip. One way to really increase your odds in the playoffs is to have fewer coin flips. And this year, the top 2 division winners get a bye. Right now, that isn't the Brewers, but with how many games they get to play against teams like the Reds, the Pirates, and the Cubs, those free wins, I think, give them a pretty good shot of passing either the Dodgers or the Mets. It looks like it'll probably be to be at least the second best division winner. Then they're one step closer to the World Series compared to whichever of those teams finishes third. I also think their rotation is going to be really scary in the playoffs now that Eric Lauer looks like he's a frontline arm. Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta, Eric Lauer might be the best top 4 in the league. Then you throw in Craig Counsell as a manager I really trust in the postseason. I think at plus 1,200, even though they aren't the most talented team, I think everything lines up for them to have better chances than those odds suggest.